Have you ever been told that you have a type A personality, or maybe you're competitive or obsessive or jealous? Those are all labels that we give personalities. But what we don't recognize a lot of times is that we are not our personality. The person part of that isn't your identity. Our personalities are just based on the behaviors that we have adapted over a long period of time, patterns that we established mostly in our childhood that now still remain true, and we just connect ourselves to those words and give them this perceived meaning of what they are and who we are. So that's not who you are. It's just the behavior that you've demonstrated, that you've used to adapt to your circumstances or environment so many times that you either adapt it or adopt that belief about yourself, or other people have witnessed that same behavior and claim that that's who you are. And it's your choice whether you believe it or not. But this series on awareness is all about this. And today I'm talking about labels with personality, but there's so much more to it. And the reason I'm super excited and passionate about it is because it has been so freeing for me to become aware of, separate myself from my thoughts, beliefs, things that I've always, identified myself with, and knowing that there's separation between that who I say I am isn't necessarily the truth. So let's take a look at these labels that we give these personalities. So for me, one thing that I feel like I might have said about myself, less so now than ever, but that I was competitive. And you might think, duh, when I say this, but I really believe that it was centered around sports at a young age. I was a very competitive soccer player at a young age through high school. And of course, that's where competition comes out. But there are a couple reasons why I have recognized, like just taking a step back and being curious about that word competitive and where that might have come from. There are a couple reasons why I believe that was the case. One for me is that I didn't feel like I belonged in the academic space. I wasn't shining as a student. I really struggled in school. So I was able to practice really hard off the field and be really competitive during games and competitions with soccer. So I stood out in that space, which felt good to me. There's also this other piece that's more emotional, because my parents were divorced at a really young age. We grew up with my mom being single parent, and she's amazing, and she did her best to play both roles as of both parents, which we know is not possible. I have a dad who's an awesome person, but he wasn't super present as a dad. But he never missed a game. And so for me, being able to shine on the field meant acceptance and approval to him. That's my perspective, or it was as a child. And so that was a space where I would get attention that I, wanted as a child. And so that became competitive for me. That's where competition, where I attached myself to being competitive and trying to be better than the person beside me. Now, sometimes that carries over. So maybe if you're super competitive as a child, then when you get into the business world or with friends, you can be super competitive. I did that a little, but not terribly so. And I do it even less so now, because the more comfortable I get with who I am, the less I'm trying to compare myself to other people and what they have going on, and to be competitive with them, because I think everybody can win. But it wasn't until I just was curious, I took a step back and said, why would I say this about myself? Where did that come from? Because what was the behavior, the adaptive behaviors that I was doing so that I would, to match the environment or the circumstances I was in? So that's what you do. You write down, pen to paper, don't try and keep this in your head, but write down different labels and things that people might say about you and your personality. And then look at each one of those things that you come up with. What, you're jealous, or you're addictive, or you're type A. At what time in your life did that behavior help you adapt to your circumstances and your environment? Because that's all that is. It's not about who you are. It's just about your behaviors that have been observed over and over again until you believe them, or someone else told you that about yourself and you believe them. And then start disproving them. Where are some circumstances in your life where you're not, or situations that you could say, yeah, well, I was competitive in sports, but I'm not competitive in, Halloween costumes. That's not my thing. I'm not competitive with cooking because that's not my thing. So where can you find those labels that you come up with? Where can you find examples of your life where you're kind of disproving? Yeah, no, I'm not this thing. This is not who I am. This was just a behavior that I did over and over again to help me adapt to situations or circumstances or environments. I hope this was helpful. There's so much more to come. I love this topic of awareness because it's been so freeing for me. I would love for you to share this video. Don't just copy the link though. I want you to send it to whatever woman comes to mind right now for you. I think now more than ever, we need to empower other women with their own light by sharing what makes them unique and special. And so express gratitude for that person. Tell them, give them a compliment. Tell them why they matter to you. And then subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you again next week with more on this awareness series.